Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Unlocking Value Show. This is the show where we will be exploring how businesses can unlock sources of value. And we will be doing this with the help of our special guests, where we will be discussing the hot topics that are shaping the future of the enterprise landscape. In this first episode of the Unlocking Value Show, we will understand how companies can future-proof their business value in a fast-paced world with shifting priorities, ever-changing market conditions, and emerging business models. So in short, we will explore what the future of business value is and how companies can realize it. Throughout this series, we will get insights from SAP's industry and value advisors, and they work with our customers on a daily basis. The industry and value advisory team at SAP consists of 650 plus industry experts and management consultants. And they work with our customers to unlock business value and outcomes through technology innovations. To do this, they use an approach that's called value management. And SAP was actually one of the first in the industry to introduce value management 18 years ago. But for those of you who may not know what value management is, what better way to get to know the concept more by having a value advisor introduce value management. And that's why today on the line I have with me Mpho. Mpho is based in Africa and he leads the value advisory team in Africa. So Mpho, if you're on the line, can you please tell us a little bit more about what value management is?
Hello, Josie. And to all our viewers from around the world, thank you for joining us on the show today. It's such a pleasure to be here. It's really going to be difficult to keep it so concise given the amount of passion that I share for the subject. But essentially, value management is the art of how we as SAP help customers quantify the competitive advantage to be gained by leveraging SAP technologies, helping them drive improved revenue, reduction of costs, or the mitigation of risk. This results in businesses and our customers being able to identify new business models, inspire new growth strategies, and drive future business that is sustainable for the long term.
Thank you so much, Mpho, for defining that for us. I'm impressed that you managed to define value management in probably less than 30 seconds. But I just have one final question for you now that I have you on the line. So you work with our customers every day to unlock business value. So you really know what they're curious to learn more about. So can you tell us what you think that our viewers can expect to learn from tuning into this show?
What viewers can expect to see on this amazing series that's lined up is the behind the scenes of how our industry and value advisory teams are helping customers every day unlock new business value. They can look forward to world-renowned speakers and thought leaders that are shaping the future of businesses of tomorrow. I think it's going to be an incredible show lined up with great expertise and great insights. And I would encourage every single one of my customers to tune in and every single one of the viewers that are watching right now to stay tuned for the entire series. It's certainly why I'll be tuning in.
Mpho, thank you so much for joining us and giving us a sneak peek of what our viewers can expect. Now, let's get to the topic of today's episode, the future of business value. And we are actually fortunate enough that we have a value advisor based here in the Copenhagen office. His name is David Pontoppidan, and he's going to help us understand what the future of business value is. And I know David is hiding somewhere here in the building in our industry and value advisory corner. So come with me and we will go find him. There you are hiding. Good to see you.
Hey Josie, great to see you. Welcome to my corner. Please sit down.
So David, you are a value advisor at SAP. What does this mean?
Well, Josie, I work with our clients every day to unlock the transformational value of their businesses.
Well, David, then I'm really glad we have you on the episode because you are actually the perfect person to talk more about the future of business value. What I want want to start off by doing is to talk a little bit about the three sources of value that companies can get value from. We have the top line, we have the bottom line, and last but not least, the newer line, the green line, something that companies today are putting a lot more focus on. And what I want to do today with David is to talk a bit more about these three lines. But before we do that, I would like to talk with you a little bit more about how a company's stakeholders' expectations are changing. Because the way that these expectations are changing are actually informing how companies are investing in these three lines. So, David, tell us a little bit more about these changing stakeholder expectations.
Absolutely, Josie. Well, so growing up, and I don't know if this tells you anything, but one of my favorite economists was Milton Friedman, who went on to win the Nobel Prize in Economics. I actually had his poster on my wall. And so Friedman had this mantra that comes to mind when you ask me about the expectations of companies. Friedman said that the business of business is business. And that remains true today. Businesses are expected to focus on the core task, which is creating value. But here's the thing. The concept of what a business is and what business is about has evolved. And what do I mean by that? Well, whereas, of course, profitability is still the currency of survival in any free market economy, it's no longer enough to rely solely on a profitable business model to survive long term. Like you mentioned, everyone from customers to employees and shareholders are expecting more from businesses today. And let's look at that, shall we? Mm-hmm. So if we look at customers, for example, the days when customers made a purchase solely based on quality and price are long gone. In fact, customers are spending money much more in a sustainable way. So there was a survey from McKinsey & Company that came out that showed that 72% of respondents reported they were more actively buying environmentally friendly products, more so than they did 5 years ago. And 81% said they're more expecting to spend even more on environmentally friendly products in the next 5 years. Overall, consumers have become much more greener in their purchasing habits. Now let's look at employees. Employees, this is true for your generation and mine, the millennials, Gen Z, but also overall, they're looking for a much more purpose-led, green, impact-based company to work for. And in fact, 60% of Gen Zs said that they're more likely to stay long-term with a company if it has a proper ESG strategy in place. Moreover, we know that companies that actively invest in attracting a diverse workforce, in creating an inclusive environment, and in building equity amongst its employees outperform other companies in terms of profitability, in terms of growth, and in terms of brand value. So finally, from the investor side, there was an EY survey that came out that said that 3 out of 4 investors are more likely to divest in a specific industry or company if there is a failure to live up to proper ESG goals. So everyone across the board have much deeper expectations in terms of what the business of business is.
Wow. So my question now is, how do these changing stakeholder expectations translate into the future building blocks of value? And also, if you could give us examples of companies that have benefited within these 3 lines that you drew on the whiteboard.
Well, absolutely, Josie. Let's have a look at that, shall we? Looking at these 3 different lines, companies have choices to make. And choices is about having the right information in place and the right foundation to bring you that information. Now, I'm paraphrasing the great management thinker Roger Martin here by saying that strategy is an integrated set of choices that you make in any given playing field in order to win. Now, starting from our top line here, the choices or decisions you need to make here are around evolving business models to seize new opportunities. It's about creating new revenue streams with other companies in an ecosystem perhaps, or rethinking your business model. So let's give an example of how we help one of our clients in this particular area. And I want to mention the NBA, the National Basketball Association. They wanted to engage with their fan base and expand their footprint internationally in a whole new way. So we help them get the systems in place through our S/4HANA Cloud ERP to create a stat site where fans can tap into statistics from the beginning of the sport up until present time. Now, this stat site is the backbone of the entire new digital business of the NBA. And the site has grown to have more than 65 million annual visits from more than 15 million individual users. And as a lifelong fan of the sport, I'm happy to say I'm one of them. Think about it, 15 million, that's a lot more than you can fit into the Staples Center or Madison Square Garden. Now, moving on to how we decrease our costs and expand our efficiency to impact our bottom line. Let's look at Vodafone Group. Vodafone is one of the world's leading telcos with more than 300 million individual users. They wanted to create a single digital foundation across their strategic business lines like finance, procurement, and HR. The result? They had more than 80% of global processes standardized, and they were able to boost their level of automation to more than 60%. They were able to, in other words, bring value to a choice about being much more global in how it was they did business and being much more efficient in terms of how they ran their processes. Now, finally, when we're talking about how we run a business that's sustainable at its core, an impact on the world that is beyond our economic footprint, we're talking about the Green Line. We're very proud to have helped Unilever, one of the world's most pervasive and successful consumer goods companies, to increase their traceability and their transparency across their global palm oil supply chain. We were able to help them through a blockchain-enabled solution to drive a 188,000 ton CO2 reduction. That is really a choice with an impact. Now, you may think that making a choice here has to be either or, but it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, if you look at how business value is created today, it has shifted from what you could call a traditional Gaussian curve, where you have the level of value created and the number of different actors involved, towards much more of a Pareto curve, where you have very, very few actors who are delivering the majority of the value. So it's imperative for businesses that want to remain competitive to keep looking at how can I expand and build upon the value that I'm creating within my top line, within my bottom line, and within my green line.
And what do we call the line that's then essentially created across all of these three lines?
Well, that's a great question, Josie, because looking at then what it is you can deliver if you deliver on that promise, you have here what I would call the transformational line or the strategic line. And this is essentially the imperative of business today, to be able to deliver value across the board.
David, thank you so much for painting this picture of what I believe to be the future of business value. And speaking of picture, I think I'm just going to capture a picture of this so we have it for the next episodes. All right, David, thank you so much for outlining the sources of value and for inviting me into your industry and value advisory corner.
You're more than welcome, Josie. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Same. Maybe we can find the key to unlock value. Who knows? Maybe it's hiding somewhere around here.
I think it might be.
Well, I will head back to the studio now. Thank you again, David. That was really great to learn more from David about how the future of business value is evolving. But it's always much easier to talk about it in theory. A whole other thing is to actually implement it as part of the business model. Luckily, we have people who have that experience and can share with us how they're doing this every single day. So today, to make it real for you, I brought in a really, really great guest that I'm very excited about. His name is David Colgan, and he is the lead for SAP Nordics at Deloitte. So, David, welcome to our studio. You've actually had a long career working with SAP's customers. I think you were at Accenture before, and now you're at Deloitte, and you lead the Nordic part of the business for SAP at Deloitte. Tell us more about what that means so our audience can get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, so at Deloitte, I have responsibility for our multidisciplinary capabilities across what we deliver to our clients with SAP. So that means everything from assurance services around our audit business, through to tax advisory services and delivery services, through risk advisory, cybersecurity, into mergers and acquisitions in our financial advisory business. But probably the largest part of our business is our consulting, which is again all the way from strategy through to technology delivery with an SAP theme.
So you work with customers every day, and you also advise them, like we talked about, on the future of their business value. So are you seeing customers' priorities changing in order to keep up with the stakeholders' changing expectations?
Absolutely. And I think what we're seeing today compared to a decade ago is just the abundance of digital technologies and the amount of data that has just been generated all around. So when we also now have more digitally native C-suites, those who are able to talk and also understand how digitalization can help them, then the demands around unlocking value with that digital technology are just a lot higher. And again, a lot of it centers around this data. There's so much of it around, and making sure that it can be both harnessed for driving the business, but also unleashed to expand the scope of what we would have as traditional industries.
So from your perspective, have you come across a customer where you have helped them realize value in a way that they have not realized it before?
Yeah, I can think of a specific example where we're working with a company in the consumer industry who together with enabling their business, making sure they connect to their customers and their vendors more automated, also is looking to harness the sustainability data that they're generating from their value chain, and without actually having to have separate repositories for it, just get it and make sure that they take decisions around the products that they use, the vendors that they interact with, evaluate those on the fly based on the same data that they would otherwise be using for their supply chain or their accounting transactions. So what we're seeing is a convergence of the requirements around this, whereas in the past we saw that we had very much different solutions that we were looking at, and different people asking us for sustainability, for vendor interaction, supply chain, and also for digital customer interaction. Now they're converging.
Yeah, so things are becoming much more connected and less siloed. And you could say in that sense, sustainability is not a nice to have, but it's something that's also integrated as part of the core of the business and the processes that flow between the different areas of the organization. There's a lot of volatility right now in the markets. And obviously, because of that, companies need to stay even more laser focused on understanding what the core of their business value is and how they sustain it and realize it, and of course, future-proof it. So what do you think companies today can do to stay laser-focused on their business value, continue to develop it, and then of course use technology to future-proof it?
Yeah, but you're absolutely right, Josephine, that there's a lot of volatility in the market. We're seeing M&A activity like we've never seen before. We're seeing industries consolidating, also industries shifting from maybe selling products to offering services with their products in them to their clients. So there's really a lot happening out there. And I think many of these initiatives are focused on their top line, so to make sure that they get more of the market or they change the market that they're working in. But what we do see also is that that companies that are being successful in this are not forgetting about the bottom line and the green line in this. And I think what we see this translating to is a focus on multi-speed transformation initiatives, where maybe a lot of the corporate activities are focused on getting the merger through otherwise, but the fast track activities are about implementing servitization models for the companies and harnessing their sustainability data so that they can, when the activity goes through, when the more structural changes have happened, that the core processes within the business are ready to embrace the evolved business.
Can you talk a little bit about how companies can, of course, ensure they run their business successfully, as usual, but also derive business value from new innovation? So
what we're seeing companies do is, firstly, is that they're shrinking their core solutions. They're making them more flexible, at the same time having a robust core that will help them evolve into whatever business model they are. So that infrastructural change is happening as we speak right now. So customers will be able to focus with some teams on driving value out of their core, but also have a completely different speed of acceleration on things outside the core, which are the future business model. So moving to a more digital enabled core gives you the possibilities, because I think one of the constraints we're seeing in many of our clients is the availability of skilled labor and the availability of talent generally. Obviously, global transaction volumes are increasing. Most companies are growing at a very large scale, but the number of talents available to them is still limited. And re-architecting their core processes and their core solutions across the business allows you to bring in concepts like the virtual talent or the virtual worker and artificial intelligence and other types of enabling technologies that simply just weren't around 10, 15 years ago. So again, these are unlocked by changing that infrastructure to a more digital enabled infrastructure.
So if you could give our customers, right, the customers and companies listening to our show, if you can give them 3 pieces of advice on how they should unlock the future of their business value, what would those 3 pieces of advice be?
It's a good question, and I think I'll maybe start by playing it a little back, that in order to be customers to be ready for the future, they need to think through what their business model is going to be in the future. Are they going to continue selling the goods that they've always sold? Is there a changing trend in the industry that they need to harness? As much as they can, think forward, think how they are going to evolve as a company, and then turn that back into what kind of underlying infrastructure they need. So that's one. The second part is digitally enable the underlying infrastructure, because that's going to be necessary to help the business evolve. And I suppose the third one is start now, or start yesterday. But if you haven't started, then start now.
So David, with those words, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the Unlocking Value show. It's been great to have you as a guest, and you really made it real for us, and how you are working with customers and how customers hopefully can get inspired in how we unlock business value in the future. So thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, Josephine.
All right, everyone. That's all we have for you on the first episode of the Unlocking Value show. To give you a sneak peek of the next episode, it'll be focused on the importance for companies to become transparent, resilient, and agile to thrive in today's world. So stay tuned to discover the growth opportunities that you can unlock by becoming an intelligent, sustainable enterprise. If you liked what you saw, then please subscribe to our YouTube channel. I hope you will stay with me on this journey as we find the key to unlock business value.